She's a disgrace. Always has been. That's what my mother told our entire extended family the day I left for graduate school. She repeated it when I skipped Christmas. Said it again when I didn't bail my sister out after her third DUI. But I was there, at the trial. Silent. Uninvited. Sitting in the very last row. My name is Dana. And wherever you're hearing this from, stay with me a moment. Have you ever been pushed out by your own blood, only to return so transformed they couldn't even bring themselves to speak your name? The courtroom was crowded. My sister sat upright in a prim blouse, trying to look innocent. My mother clutched her handbag tightly, whispering to herself that this would all blow over soon. And me? I sat alone. Hands folded. Expression fixed. I had no plan to speak. I just came to witness. These were the same people who once labeled me too sensitive, too selfish, invisible. Then the judge walked in. Mid-50s. Stern. The kind of man whose face barely twitched even during homicide hearings. He flipped through the folder in front of him, reading with glasses halfway down his nose. Then he paused. He looked up. Scanned the courtroom slowly. His eyes locked on me. Didn't move. He squinted slightly, then leaned into the microphone and spoke in a voice just loud enough to fracture the silence. Wait. Governor Dana Walsh. The room froze. My sister's attorney stumbled over his words. The court clerk dropped his pen. Even the bailiff turned to look. But my mother? She went ghost white. I didn't rise. Didn't smile. I met the judge's gaze and nodded, once. He straightened immediately. This hearing is over, he said, suddenly firm. This case is no longer what your family thought it would be. Because the daughter they cast off, the one they ignored, the one they never supported, had become the most powerful person in the room. And their silence? It wasn't indifference anymore. It was fear. The air in that room changed. Charged. Like everyone suddenly realized they were standing too close to a lightning strike. The judge cleared his throat, voice weighted now. Court is in recess. But what he really meant was, what the hell is she doing here? Governors don't just show up to garden variety DUI trials. Not without security. Not without aides. Not without warning. But I didn't come as an official. I came as the daughter they threw out. As the sister they used to make comparisons. As the girl they kept saying, you don't belong to us. I watched my mother lean in and hiss at my sister through clenched teeth. You didn't tell me she was coming. My sister didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her eyes stayed glued to the floor, finally replaying every holiday where she laughed behind my back. Every time she toasted her promotion, while I kept quiet about the 80-hour weeks I spent serving the public. They never thought I'd rise above city council. Called me dull. Too cold. Too intense. But cold women climb in silence. And when they reach the summit, they don't shout. They decide. During recess, the judge approached me and gently took off his glasses. Governor, I had no idea. If I'd known. I cut him off kindly. I'm not here in any official capacity. Just observing. He nodded, but we both understood. This was no longer just a family squabble in legal form, it was now a political landmine for him. The whispers had already started before the hearing resumed. Reporters lining the hall. Law clerks pretending not to stare. Even the opposing counsel leaned over to my mother and muttered, "Is that the Governor Walsh?" She didn't answer. How do you explain disowning your daughter, only to watch her name become the one everyone now stands for? And me? I just sat there. Still. Unapologetic. I wasn't there to display power. I came to remind them, I am power. The courtroom reconvened. But something had shifted. Not a single person could meet my eyes. The judge returned to his seat, cautious now. His tone careful. He flipped through the file as if it might burn him. My sister sat rigid, her lawyer whispering desperately beside her. My mother remained still. Pale. Holding on to that purse like it held answers. Here's the truth no one tells you. When a woman rises without making noise, the people who once mocked her don't have a script for when she turns around. They were still stuck in their old story, where I was the family's biggest letdown. Not pretty enough. Not bubbly enough. Not obedient enough. The girl who always had a book in her hand and never smiled at the right moments. The girl who left and didn't look back. But I didn't leave empty-handed. I carried every wound, every insult, every time they told me I wasn't enough, and I turned it into legislation. I turned it into strength. While they threw celebrations for my sister's failing businesses, I sat in strategic meetings rewriting healthcare policy. While they whispered about how I couldn't keep a man, I rebuilt housing initiatives that kept thousands off the streets. And now, here I was. Their disappointment. In a navy blue suit. With the whole courtroom too stunned to breathe. The judge finally spoke. This case is being reassigned. Effective immediately. I'm recusing myself due to conflict of interest. Translation? He didn't want the blowback. He knew this was no longer a routine DUI. It now bore my name. My sister finally looked up. Her lips parted. Dana, please. I turned to her. Slowly. Now you remember my name. And then, silence. The kind that only guilt can create, when it finally recognizes the person it tried so hard to erase. I stood up, not with anger, not with a smirk, not with any dramatic flourish. Just calm. Measured. I turned to the bailiff and said quietly, I'm finished observing. Then I walked the length of the aisle, steady and composed. Every eye in the room followed, even the ones that used to look right through me when I needed them most. Because when you've spent your whole life being underestimated, you don't slam the door on your way out. You become the structure they once locked you out of. Outside, the chaos had already started. Reporters swarmed like bees drawn to a storm. Cameras flashed. Questions were hurled like stones. Someone had leaked my presence. Governor Dana Walsh, seen attending a minor DUI hearing. Governor Walsh, are you connected to this case? Is the defendant your sister? Why were you here today? I didn't freeze. Didn't flinch. I met one journalist's gaze and replied with clarity. I was present as a private citizen. No further comment. Then I walked straight through them, through the noise, the pressure, the flashing lights, just like I always had. Because when you've spent a lifetime being spoken over, you learn to move without waiting for anyone's permission. Back in the car, my phone screen lit up like a warning sign. 3 missed calls from Mom. 8 from Clara. 12 from numbers I didn't recognize. Panic. That's what they were feeling. And I could sense it all. Still, I didn't answer. I turned to my driver. Take me to the state office. Because I had a meeting to lead. A legislative session on foster care reform, part of a system my mother once claimed I wasn't emotionally stable enough to understand. And now? I was rewriting it. That night, in the quiet of my apartment, I finally opened my sister's texts. Dana, I'm sorry. You could have helped me. You could have warned me. Warned her? Warned her that I'd spent years being the family's favorite punching bag? That I took every insult and turned it into infrastructure? That while they joked about me behind closed doors, I was memorizing their flaws to ensure I never built anything like them. No. I owed her nothing. But I replied anyway. You had their protection. I had their silence. You were raised to expect grace from the world. I was raised to give it to everyone but myself. We're both grown now. This time I chose me. Delivered. Read. No response. And that silence? It tasted better than any apology she could have sent, because this time, I wasn't the forgotten figure tucked away in the back row. I was the headline. The one who broke free from their narrative and started writing her own. By morning, my name was everywhere. Governor attends sister's court trial. Family drama unfolds in courtroom. Silent message from governor sends shockwaves. They didn't have the full story. They didn't need it. One photograph had done the talking. Me standing silently at the end of the courtroom aisle. My mother, frozen in disbelief. My sister, mid-plea, turning toward me. The judge rising from his bench. That single image went viral. And suddenly, people were asking the only question that mattered. What kind of family ignores their daughter until the world no longer does? I didn't give interviews. I didn't offer a quote. I let the headlines breathe. I let my family sit in their discomfort. Silence had always been their weapon. Now it was mine. That afternoon, my phone rang again, from a blocked number. I picked up, curious. It was her. My mother. Her voice was soft, shaky, almost unfamiliar. Dana. I didn't realize. I didn't know how far you'd come. We, your father and I, thought you were just avoiding us. I said nothing. She kept going. Your sister's in trouble. Real trouble. They're talking about taking her license permanently. Jail time is on the table. You could help. Just say something. I looked out my office window at the Capitol lawn. Everything pristine. Still. Safe. Then I spoke. You called me a failure for years. And now that I've succeeded without your help, you want me to undo the fallout from your favorite child's choices. She whispered, desperate. She's your sister. I responded calmly. No. She was your golden child. Now she's a grown woman, with a criminal record. And I ended the call. No yelling. No bitterness. Just truth. Because for years, I begged them to notice me. And when they wouldn't, I became someone they couldn't ignore. That night, a message hit my inbox, from the original judge himself. Subject, regarding your sister's case. He explained that the new judge assigned to the matter had no intention of granting leniency. He thanked me for keeping my composure. Then added something I hadn't expected. What happened in that courtroom today will be studied for years, not because of what you said, but because of how many finally listened. And for once, I believed it. All those years their voices drowned mine out, yet it was my silence that echoed the loudest. By week's end, Clara's sentencing was complete. Her license revoked, probation handed down, fines piled high enough to rattle even her overconfident lawyer. That's when the family started calling in favors. Aunt Lydia was the first to reach out. Ever the family peacemaker. Dana, darling, your mother is beside herself. Clara's humiliated. Isn't that punishment enough? Enough? Was it enough when they whispered about me at every holiday table? When I got into grad school and Mom brushed it off as a phase? When they called me cold, ambitious, too serious, simply because I wasn't performing for their approval? No, Aunt Lydia. This was never about humiliation. This was about consequences. Clara didn't just wrestle with alcohol, she wielded entitlement. And she was raised on a steady diet of indulgence, never once held to the standards they crushed me beneath. Now those standards had a new face. A new name. A title they couldn't ignore. That night, I sat reviewing policy with my chief of staff when she paused, watching me closely. Governor, are you okay? I didn't answer immediately. Because yes, I was okay. For the first time, I wasn't clawing to be recognized. I was standing still, while the very people who once dismissed me now whispered my name with caution. I closed my laptop and smiled. I'm better than okay. I'm free. And I meant it. Because freedom wasn't about holding public office, it was finally understanding I'd never have to crawl back to earn love from people who only valued me when I stayed small. My sister was learning a hard truth now, that a shared last name doesn't exempt you from accountability. And the girl they used to ignore? She was the one signing the laws now. The courtroom never reached out again. But the state legislature did. They asked if I'd speak on ethical leadership. The photo from that day in court now hangs framed in my office. Me standing still. My mother stunned. Clara mid-plea. The judge halfway risen. It became a symbol, proof that no matter how deep they tried to bury me, I didn't just survive. I made the ground beneath them shift. A month later, I hosted a summit in D.C., a gathering of senators, governors, judges, even foreign delegates. The East Hall was full, the weight of the moment tangible. I stood at the podium in tailored navy, not a single note needed. Because the truth I carried didn't need paper. It had lived in my bones for decades. I spoke of privilege. Of how systems protect some and punish others. Of how true justice doesn't flinch in the face of legacy. I didn't use names, but the message was clear. Those who knew the headlines nodded. And those who didn't still felt the sting. Afterward, as I moved through handshakes and photo ops, a voice stopped me. Governor Walsh. I turned. It was Judge Levinson, the one from Clara's trial. He reached out, gentle. May I just say, you didn't utter a word that day. And somehow, you still educated us all. I smiled. Silence is a language, I said. The only question is who's earned the right to understand it. He chuckled, nodded, and disappeared into the crowd. And I stood there, letting the moment sink in. Years ago, I would have given anything to hear my family cheer for me. Now, I didn't need their applause. I had something better. Peace. Then the unexpected. The summit coordinator approached with a note. Someone's downstairs. Says it's personal. I raised an eyebrow. But I already knew. I stepped outside into the fading light. There she was, Clara. No makeup. Hair tied back. Shoulders drawn inward. For once, no show. She stepped toward me slowly, holding a manila envelope. I'm not here to beg. I just wanted to thank you. You could have destroyed me. You didn't. I tilted my head. You were already doing that. She looked down. I'm getting help. I'm trying. I didn't embrace her. I didn't reassure her. But I didn't walk away either. Instead, I said, then don't do it for me. Do it for the version of you no one's watching. That's who matters now. She nodded, eyes shining, and handed me the envelope, photos, from before the fractures. Then she turned and walked off. And I stood on the Capitol steps, holding years of forgotten memories, realizing something powerful. This was never about revenge. It was about clarity. They didn't break me. They forged the fire I now lead with. Back home, I placed the envelope on the counter. I didn't open it right away. Just stared at it, as if it might still have teeth. Later, I sat by the window with chamomile tea. No cameras. No noise. Just me. Eventually, I opened it. Inside were still frames of another life. Clara and I playing under the sprinkler. Dad at the grill. Mom pretending to care. Then one photo caught my breath. Me, maybe 10, wearing oversized glasses, clutching a science fair ribbon. Standing alone. No one around me. No one clapping. But I was smiling. Even then, I knew how to cheer for myself. That little girl didn't need an audience. She just needed one person to believe in her. And eventually, she became that person. I stood and placed that photo next to the one from my inauguration. 2 girls looking back at me, one invisible, the other undeniable. Both me. The next morning, I declined a call from my mother, and then blocked the number. Not out of spite. But because healing isn't revenge. It's choosing who still gets access to your peace. Clara's path was hers to fix. And my silence? It wasn't punishment. It was final. Because the girl they mocked wrote legislation to protect abused children. The daughter they dismissed built homes for the forgotten. The woman they called a failure became a leader the country now turned to in crisis. They erased me from the family. So I carved my name into history. Not with fury. Not with fanfare. But with quiet, deliberate power. And a message for every daughter who was once overlooked. You don't need their table. When the time comes, you build your own.